Hi, this is Tom. Welcome to the Tales of Mystara podcast. I'd like to start by saying thanks for giving my podcast a shot. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen, especially with the wealth of Dungeons and Dragons related content out there. My hope is that I can provide something a little bit different here, that will set this aside from the other podcasts. If you stick with it, and you enjoy it, then I have achieved what I set out to do, to entertain, tell a story, immerse an audience, and share my love of D&D. Once again, thanks for listening, and without further ado, let's get on with the show. The following podcast is for a mature audience and contains detailed descriptions of violence. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Tales of Mystara podcast, an experimental podcast that mixes traditional storytelling with old-school pen and paper role-playing games played entirely solo. This could be considered a dark fantasy novel or a solo Dungeons and Dragons campaign. If treated like a novel, then nothing can be assumed. Only the dice can determine the outcome. It cannot be known whether a character will live or die. Nothing is precious. No one is safe from the roll of the dice. If treated like a tabletop role-playing game, there are no players. There is no dungeon master. There is only me, the rules, and the dice. The time of King Halav has since been called the Golden Age of the Traldar. The Traldar never did found a mighty empire, or even fully recover from the devastation brought by the Beastmen. According to Traldar legends, King Halav must return to Traldar lands, and upon his return, Traladara will become a mighty nation once again. The Dark Age of the Traldar, a forgotten text written by a nameless scholar of the Church of Karameikos. Its age is unknown. Date: Solidane 7, Claremont, AC 1000. Time: 11:40 AM. Party status: Claudius, 4 hit points. Theodore, 4 hit points. Elmo, 5 hit points. Ilyena, 4 hit points. Yolanda, 4 hit points. Yolanda stands in a square 30-foot by 30-foot room, gaping at 5 ferocious kobolds with their rusty, jagged swords drawn. Her attempt to diminish her torchlight when she stole through the sunless corridors was a blunder. She has been detected. Yolanda will whistle to the party to signal the anticipated danger and back up through the door and to the right, where she will stand against the wall so she can funnel the kobolds if they decide to attack. I will roll initiative. Yolanda 6, kobolds 5. Lucky roll. Yolanda swiftly retreats through the door and leans up against the wall to the right. She whistles to the party to warn them. I am going to use the monster reaction table given in the Dungeon Master's rulebook to determine how the kobolds react to the intruders. I roll 2d6. It's a 12. Oh my. This means the kobold's initial reaction will be immediately friendly. However, I don't want to make it too easy for Yolanda. I will interpret this result as the kobolds attempting to negotiate with Yolanda and ask for a bribe. One of the kobolds addresses Yolanda.
"Give us back the treasure, and we will let you go."
Just like the kobold guard, the party tied up in the courtyard, this one also speaks the common tongue. This is unusual, if not unheard of, for kobolds. In my campaign, which is set in the world of Mystara, the common tongue is Thyacian. All the characters in the party speak Thyacian and Traladaran, including Elmo, who has a lower intelligence with a -1 penalty. He speaks both, but can only write a few simple words in Thyacian and cannot read or write Traladaran. Yolanda will attempt to outsmart the kobolds with negotiation. This will also give time for the rest of the party to arrive on the scene. "We will give you the treasure," she says, "if you promise not to take the magic things we found." She speaks from the hallway outside the door. She's still angled up against the wall.
"What is it?"
At this point, the party arrives on the scene. Magical peas," Yolanda responds, gesturing to Elmo not to ruin her cunning plan. "Okay, fine. Let us pass through and we will give them to you instead. One of these peas will give you the strength of a giant, and we have a whole bag of them. But you have to promise to leave this castle and never return, and in exchange for the peas, at least let us keep the treasure." Yolanda has a charisma score of 9. She has no bonus or penalty. However, Ilyena will join in and help convince the kobolds. "You can't let them take the magical peas," Ilyena protests. "They're worth far more than all this treasure combined. Take the treasure instead." Ilyena has a charisma score of 15 and gets a +1 bonus. She is attempting to cleverly convince the kobolds to take the bag of peas with some classic reverse psychology. I will now roll another 2d6 and add a +1 bonus to see how the kobolds react using the monster reaction chart. I rolled an 11. This indicates the possibility of friendliness. I will need to roll again next round.
"What else do the peas do?"
They give giant strength and they keep you from going hungry. 1 pea will keep you full for 3 days. Ilyena lies. I will roll again on the monster reaction chart, adding the +1 bonus again. I rolled a 7, this time indicating that the kobold's reaction is friendly. It makes sense after 2 results of friendly that the kobolds will comply as long as the character's requests are reasonable.
"Give us the peas."
"Okay, we will hand them over," Yolanda says. Elmo passes over the bag of dried peas. "There is one more thing," Yolanda says.
"What is it?"
"They need sunlight to work. They won't work inside the castle. You must eat them in the courtyard. See how they look dried up?" I feel like another reaction roll is necessary here, as a creature such as a kobold is reasonably intelligent. With an intelligence score of 9, It's fair to say they would be extremely suspicious at this moment. I rolled a 9, which indicates possibly friendly. Roll again.
How do we know you're not lying?
Says one of the kobolds. Yolanda stares dumbfounded. She has no idea what to say in response. I really think you should reconsider them having the peas, Yolanda. It's the reason we came here after all. Let them have the treasure instead. It's far less valuable. I will roll another reaction roll with a +1 for Ilyena's charisma bonus.
The following podcast is not intended for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. The Iron Realm. When all planes of existence fall to ash, there is only one realm that remains. The Iron Realm. Before you in all directions, deep in the dark, there lies the maze. The Iron Realm. Millions of miles of corridors, caves, tunnels without end. This is the ultimate dungeon. Orcs, goblins, kobolds, trolls. Ready your sword, your spells, your crossbow, your warhammer. The Iron Realm. Keep close your companions, for they are your only hope for survival. Elf, fighter, wizard, cleric. There are no rerolls. There is no way out. Yet here, in the dark, if any of the merciful gods still remain, you may find the strength you need to fight, the cunning you need to hide, and the luck you need to stay alive. Just a little longer. Iron Realm! Iron Realm! Iron Realm! I am your maze master, Abel Enzo. Get your dice and graph paper, and be sure to bring your friends. I'll see you in the realm. Get the podcast at theironrealm.com or theironrealm.blogspot.com. There be dragons here.
Under Karameikos' rule, the duchy did prosper. The Duke, no economist or merchant himself, was generally a good judge of character and relied on the advice of intelligent and impartial ministers and friends when deciding policy, arranging trade and state relations, and settling disputes. When the Duke's own common sense was not enough to solve a problem, he used the brains and experience of those who could provide a solution. His personal charisma and reputation for fairness began to endear him to the populace, both Thyacian and Traladarii. Today, Thyacians and Traladarii in the duchy still view one another with some distrust, and each keeps to their own language in their home, but each will call himself Karameikan to a foreigner. In the 3 decades since Duke Stefan's arrival in Specularum, trade has flourished. Logging enterprises based out of villages such as Threshold and Kelvin have provided much revenue to the duchy. Specularum now houses ambassadors from many of the civilized nations of the world, particularly those who engage in ongoing trade with Karameikos. In 979 AC, Duke Stefan married Lady Olivia Prothernian, a distant cousin of the Emperor of Thyatis. They had been affianced before he took the Traladari territory when she was just 11. She wed him in when she was 20, stubbornly waiting all this time to see if he could establish himself as master of his Grand Duchy before travelling there to wed him. Their first child, a daughter, Adriana, was born in 980. Their second, a son, Justin, was born in 982, and their third, a son, Valen, in 986. Much of the history of the Grand Duchy in the last 30 years has involved the jockeying for power between the new Thyacian clans and the established Traladari families. I rolled an 11 on my reaction roll, which indicates another friendly response. Phew.
All right, we'll take them. But if they don't work, we will be back.
Elmo salutes the kobold and smiles, and Ilyena gives him a slap on the back of the head for acting like an idiot, as the 5 kobolds leave with the bag of dried peas. They'll be back, so we need to be quick, Claudius says. The kobold's movement speed is 90 feet per turn, and should make it out to the courtyard in roughly 2 turns, and it will take about a turn before they realise the peas do not have the magical properties that Yolanda led them to believe. So I will rule that it will take the kobolds 5 turns before they return. In the meantime, the party searches through the rubble and trash in the room, but they turn up nothing of use. They enter the room to the west through the only available open doorway. This room is 20 feet by 20 feet and has a door in the west wall. In the very centre of the room stands a statue of a short, dog-headed man, clad in leather armour, apparently swinging a short sword. It's a kobold. Yolanda carefully checks the statue for traps, and the rest of the party thoroughly searches the room. Yolanda finds no traps. The statue appears completely harmless, and the room appears to be empty. Yolanda listens at the door on the west wall. She cannot hear any noise coming from the other side. She tries the handle, but the door is locked. She tries to unlock it with the brass key, but it doesn't fit the lock. "Where to now?" Ilyena says. "Down," Claudius responds. The party walks back out into the corridor and descends the stairs in the following marching order. Ilyena up front, Yolanda, Elmo and Theodore next, Claudius behind. Claudius's lantern has been burning brightly since they re-entered the castle ruins. Between Ilyena and Yolanda, they are on their 3rd torch. Now the party has descended to the 2nd level. I will be periodically checking for wandering monsters. I will also be randomly determining the contents of each room on this level of the dungeon by making rolls on my own dungeon generator, which is a collection of tables and rules I have put together. For more information on how I run my solo D&D games, including useful PDFs, visit solodungeoncrawler.blogspot.com. The party descend the stone stairwell and find themselves in a square 30 foot by 30 foot room, which has a door on the south and north walls. The room is empty. I will make a roll to determine whether the party attempts to go north or south from here. A roll of 1 to 3 on a d6 will indicate north. 4 to 6 will indicate south. It's a 1, so the party will go north. Ilyena attempts to open the door. It opens easily, revealing a 10-foot wide corridor which leads north into the darkness, but after 10 feet there is also another 10-foot wide corridor leading west. The party will take the west corridor. After about 50 feet, they come to a door to their left. Ilyena's torch burns out, and she lights another. She tries the door. It's stuck. I will make a wandering monster check at this point. No wandering monster. The characters are safe. For now. The party continues west along the corridor, deciding to leave the door behind for now. After another 10 feet, the corridor opens up into a 30-foot by 40-foot chamber, which has 3 doors, 2 on the south wall in each corner of the room, and 1 on the west wall. The room is empty. The party approaches the first closest door on the south wall. Ilyena tries the handle. It takes her +2 strength bonus, but she manages to force open the door. After a short 10-foot by 10-foot entranceway, the room opens up into a 20-foot by 30-foot room, which has another door on the opposite wall. The room appears empty to the characters, but it is not. I will roll a d6 to see if the party is surprised. The party is surprised. As they glance around the room for anything of interest, something large and chameleon-like blends into its surroundings. It climbs the walls and the ceiling, and then drops. But as it does, it quickly recoils, barely missing Ilyena. The heat and flame of her torch appears to terrify the creature, which has large, venomous fangs and is about 5 feet long. It is a crab spider and very poisonous. The 8-legged arachnid changes colour, quickly blending in with the mucky tone of the stone floor. Its fangs drip with poisonous venom. I really hate spiders, says Elmo.
Welcome to your Eldritch Journeys.
I'm BJ Haddix, and I play Bagyo Ubo, a turtle monk. On my journeys, I endeavor to make up for my greatest failure, one life at a time.
My name is Weston, and I play Griffin, an Aarakocra swashbuckler. I seek to do what's right to quiet the echoes of my past.
I'm Eddie Flynn, and I play the mad sorcerer Howland Rain. I've never really been great at being a good guy, but being a villain on the other hand? Now that is something I could be great at.
A D&D epic like none other, on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and more. Now quick, BJ, say a joke. Let's take a journey.
You have been listening to the Tales of Mystara podcast. I sincerely hope you have enjoyed this episode. If you have listened on YouTube, then I would appreciate you taking the time to subscribe, click the like button, and let me know your thoughts in a comment. If you have listened on iTunes, then I would appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star review. These things really help, and they let me know that the work I put into this podcast is worth it, and that I am making content that people like. After all, that's why I'm doing this. Once again, thanks for listening. I'll see you next session.